Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a woman who wasn't the most conventionally attractive in the room, yet every man's eyes were on her? She walks in, and it's like the energy shifts, not because of her face, not because of her body, but because of something else you can't quite describe. That something else is psychological attraction, and it's 10x more powerful than looks alone. Here's the truth most women don't hear. Men don't fall for what they see, they fall for how you make them feel. And if you can activate the right emotions, curiosity, uncertainty, admiration, challenge, you can stay on his mind long after you leave the room. The media constantly tells women to look better to get love, do your makeup, lose weight, dress a certain way. But what if I told you that none of that creates true obsession? Real obsession starts when a man can't predict you, when he's slightly off balance, and when he senses there's more to you than meets the eye. You become a mystery his mind wants to solve, a woman he can't categorize. That's where obsession begins, and that's what this video is about. You're about to learn 3 powerful hidden psychological tricks that make men think about you, crave you, and emotionally invest, without you chasing, performing, or changing who you are. These are backed by real behavioral patterns that spark deep attraction, even in emotionally unavailable men. So if you're ready to flip the script, lean back, and let your energy do the work, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's begin. Let's get into one of the most powerful psychological secrets that very few women know how to use, the scarcity loop. This isn't about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about understanding how the male mind processes value and desire. The truth is, we're all wired to chase what feels limited, rare, or just out of reach. And when something feels too easy or too available, we instinctively devalue it, even if it's something we once deeply wanted. Now think about how this shows up in dating. You meet someone new, you click, the connection feels real. And because you're excited, you start responding to texts right away, clearing your schedule to see him, staying up late to talk. On the surface, it feels like you're building intimacy. But underneath, something subtle happens. He stops trying, the dynamic shifts. He starts to pull back. Why? Because the emotional tension is gone. There's no mystery, no chase, no sense of scarcity. This is where the scarcity loop comes in. Instead of giving him constant access to your attention, your time, your emotional energy, you create space. You show up with warmth and presence, but you don't make yourself fully available all the time. You give him moments of connection, and then you let him sit with it. You pull back, not to punish or manipulate, but to let his desire grow naturally. When a man can't fully predict you, when he can't assume you're always going to be there waiting, his brain kicks into pursuit mode. He starts wondering what you're thinking, what you're doing, and why he suddenly feels a little off balance. And that's exactly what you want. Emotional unpredictability creates obsession, not through chaos, but through contrast. It's the same reason we binge watch a show that leaves us on a cliffhanger. We need resolution. And in dating, when you become that emotional cliffhanger, he becomes hooked. Start by not always texting back right away. Let a message sit. Take your time. Be intentional. Let the silence speak for you. End the conversation first, especially when it's going really well. Leave him wanting more. And don't always be available to meet up. Make your presence feel like a gift, not a guarantee. When he realizes he doesn't automatically have access to you, he'll start to value every moment more. You're not being distant, you're being deliberate. You're not ignoring him, you're inviting him to lean in. And when he starts investing, initiating, and craving your energy again, you've activated the loop. You've created that space where obsession is born. This trick alone has flipped the dynamic for so many women, because it shifts the power back without ever needing to play games. When you stop chasing and start pacing, you naturally become the woman he can't stop thinking about. And the best part, you didn't have to say a word. Let's keep going, because the next trick deepens the attraction even more by tapping into contrast and emotional duality that keeps him on edge in the best way. Now let's talk about something that drives men absolutely wild, and most women overlook it completely. It's called the contrast effect. And when you use it correctly, it creates emotional tension that makes you unforgettable. It's the psychological pull he doesn't even realize he's falling into. One moment, he feels warmth and connection from you. and the next you shift your energy just enough to make him question everything. That hot-cold balance doesn't confuse him. It compels him. Here's the truth. Attraction isn't just about being nice, loving, supportive, or consistent. Those are beautiful qualities, but on their own, they don't create obsession. Obsession is built through emotional contrast. It's the tension between comfort and unpredictability, presence and absence, softness and edge. If you're always warm, always giving, always emotionally available, the dynamic becomes flat. But when you know how to switch the tone just slightly, when you can go from sweet and open to calm and unbothered in an instant, that's when you become magnetic. Think about it. What sticks in someone's memory isn't sameness, it's surprise, it's contrast. When a man experiences different sides of you, the nurturing side, the playful side, the mysterious side, he never quite knows what's coming next. That unpredictability isn't a flaw, it's addictive. It creates a loop in his brain where he keeps coming back, needing more data, needing to figure you out, and that's the exact space where obsession forms. The key is to create small moments of polarity. Maybe one day you're affectionate and light-hearted in conversation, laughing easily and showing attention. And the next time you talk, you're calm, distant, maybe even a little distracted. Not cold, just self-contained. He'll notice. He'll feel the difference. And that contrast will drive him to reconnect, to pull you back in, to chase the warmth he felt before. The contrast effect isn't about emotional manipulation. It's about showing emotional dimension. It tells him you're not one-dimensional. You're not the woman who's always available, always smiling, always trying to please. You're complex. You're layered, and that's what keeps a man intrigued. He doesn't feel like he's figured you out, so he keeps coming back. Here's a simple way to try it. The next time you feel like showering him with affection or reaching out, pause. Ask yourself, have I already given warmth recently? If yes, then balance it with calm, space, or silence. Let him reach out. Let him lean in. And when he does, reward that energy with a bit of your light again. It's this subtle shift that creates rhythm in your dynamic. And rhythm is what keeps attraction alive. This technique works in texts, in conversation, even during physical intimacy. And once you master it, you'll notice that men don't just like being around you. They feel pulled in, emotionally engaged, even when you say very little. That's the power of contrast. It's not about being fake, it's about being full spectrum. And that's exactly what makes you unforgettable. Let's move on to trick number 3, because this next one taps directly into a man's subconscious, using one of the most underestimated tools of attraction. If you really want to get into a man's head and stay there, you need to understand the power of mirroring, but not in the obvious way most people talk about. This isn't about copying his gestures or matching his tone. What we're talking about here is something much deeper and more impactful. I call it the unexpected mirror. And it works because it bypasses logic and speaks directly to his emotional subconscious. Here's the truth. Most people are walking around with emotional blind spots. They want to feel seen, understood, and accepted, but they don't always know how to express that. So when someone shows up and reflects a version of them they want to be, but haven't yet fully become, it creates an intense emotional pull. That's what this trick does. You reflect the part of him he wants to embody, and in doing so, you make him feel more like himself around you than he does anywhere else. Let me explain. Men are often conditioned to hide certain emotions, vulnerability, uncertainty, fear of rejection. They push those feelings down to maintain control. But inside, they're craving a connection that feels safe, energizing, and real. When you subtly mirror his unspoken emotional state, not his behavior, you make him feel deeply understood, sometimes without even saying much. And that feeling, that's where attachment begins. Let's say he talks about his work stress, but laughs it off like it's nothing. Instead of matching his humor, you pause and say something like, "That sounds like a lot to carry. I don't know how you're keeping it all together." That moment of unexpected emotional reflection cuts through the performance. It tells him you see what others miss. You're not just watching him, you're witnessing him. And that's rare, but the real magic happens when you also reflect back his best self, the one he's still growing into. Maybe he talks about a dream he's not sure he can pull off, and you say, "You light up when you talk about that. I'd bet on you." That one sentence, that makes you unforgettable. You're not just boosting his ego, you're showing him a version of himself he wants to believe in. This mirror isn't about flattery or pretending. It's about listening between the lines, noticing what most people ignore, and then offering reflections that feel both emotionally grounded and slightly aspirational. You become the mirror that makes him feel more powerful, more capable, more emotionally open. And when a man associates you with that feeling, it's almost impossible to forget you. Here's where it becomes even more effective. The mirror should be unexpected. He's used to surface level compliments or conversations that skim past the real stuff. So when you drop in something emotionally intelligent, subtly supportive, and just a little unexpected, it jolts his attention. He feels seen in a new way. It creates a micro moment of emotional intimacy that lingers. This doesn't mean you take on a therapist role or try to fix him. Not at all. You're just offering small reflections at key moments, when he shares something personal, when his guard drops, or when he's trying to impress you. And the less often you do it, the more powerful it becomes. It's not your job to constantly mirror. It's your power to do it intentionally. What's beautiful about this trick is that it builds emotional equity. Over time, he begins to associate you with emotional resonance, clarity, and connection. And while looks fade and superficial attraction shifts, that kind of emotional impact endures. He won't always remember what you wore, or even what you said, but he'll remember how you made him feel. And that's what keeps him hooked. Now that you've got all three psychological tricks, scarcity, contrast, and mirroring, it's time to talk about the common mistakes that undo all this progress. Don't skip the next part, because even one of these missteps can reset the entire connection. Now that you understand the psychological secrets that spark obsession, it's time to talk about what kills it. Because here's the thing, most women don't fail to create attraction. They just unknowingly sabotage it. And it happens in tiny, almost invisible ways. You can be doing everything right, using the scarcity loop, creating contrast, even mirroring his emotions. But if you fall into these common traps, the obsession you built can fade almost instantly. Let's start with the first one. Over-explaining your intentions. So many women feel the need to constantly clarify what they meant in a text, what they're thinking, or how they feel. You say something light and playful, then immediately follow it up with, "I didn't mean that in a weird way." Or just to be clear, "I wasn't being rude." But here's the truth. When you feel the need to over-explain, what you're actually signaling is insecurity. You're taking away his opportunity to lean in, to wonder, or to figure you out. Obsession grows in that space between what's said and what's unsaid. When you fill in all the blanks, you make yourself predictable. And that predictability kills mystery. Mistake number 2 is initiating too often. Now this one can be hard, especially if you're naturally warm and expressive. But when you're always the one texting first, checking in, or asking to hang out, you're disrupting the emotional pacing. Remember the scarcity loop. If he never gets a chance to feel your absence, he'll never appreciate your presence. Obsession isn't built when you're around, it's built in the spaces in between. The silence, the pullback, the moments where he has to ask, "Where is she? What is she thinking?" That's when he begins to crave you. Another big one, emotional oversharing too soon. Vulnerability is powerful, but timing matters. When you give someone too much of your story, your trauma, your fears early on, before emotional trust is earned, it can feel overwhelming. Instead of creating connection, it creates pressure. The most magnetic women know how to reveal themselves in layers, slowly, intentionally, over time. That keeps him curious. That keeps him engaged. Don't give him the whole story on date 2. Let him earn each chapter. Then there's seeking constant reassurance. If you're frequently asking questions like, "Do you still like me?" or "Are you losing interest?" you're placing the emotional leadership in his hands. You're asking him to manage your self-worth. And the moment he feels like he's emotionally responsible for your sense of security, the dynamic shifts. It's no longer romantic, it becomes heavy. The woman who creates obsession doesn't need constant validation. She moves with quiet confidence, and that confidence becomes irresistible. The final mistake is changing who you are to keep him interested. This is the silent killer of attraction. You start adjusting your opinions, softening your boundaries, even altering your goals just to fit into his world. But obsession doesn't come from compliance, it comes from contrast, from you being rooted in who you are, whether he agrees or not. The second you start molding yourself to his desires, he loses respect. Not because he's cruel, but because people subconsciously devalue what they don't have to work for. So ask yourself, where have you been shrinking to be more liked? Where have you been overgiving to stay relevant in his mind? Because when you correct these subtle mistakes, everything else you've learned, scarcity, contrast, mirroring, becomes 10x more effective. You stop chasing attention and start commanding energy. And that's the shift from being just another girl to becoming the one he can't forget. In the next section, we're going to talk about detachment, not as a defense, but as a deliberate strategy that creates deep emotional pull. Let's keep going. If there's one feminine strategy that silently drives a man wild, it's detachment. But let's clear this up. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're cold, unbothered, or pretending not to have feelings. Detachment is not emotional numbness. It's emotional self-possession. It means your mood, your confidence, your peace are not based on how he acts. That's where true power lies. When a man senses that your emotional center stays steady, whether he texts back or doesn't, whether he leans in or pulls away, he begins to feel something he rarely feels in modern dating. Respect mixed with curiosity. He wonders how you're able to stay so grounded. He starts to question why you don't need his validation the way others have. That space of wonder is where desire begins to build. Most women are taught that connection means emotional closeness at all times, that if he pulls away, you have to close the gap, reach out, check in, fix it. But when you embody detachment, you let the gap exist. You trust that if he's meant to come closer, he will, and if not, that's your protection, not your rejection. That emotional stillness is magnetic. He feels it, even if you're saying nothing. Detachment also means you're not emotionally reacting to everything. If he takes longer to respond, you don't spiral. If he seems distant, you don't chase. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" you calmly observe. You become the woman who lets things unfold instead of forcing outcomes. And that energy makes him step up, because suddenly he realizes your attention is not guaranteed. Your softness is not owed, it's earned. One of the deepest desires men have, but rarely voice, is to win over a woman who has options, standards, and self-respect. Detachment makes those qualities visible. It shows that you have a life beyond him, that you're choosing him, not needing him. There's a difference between wanting someone and depending on them to feel whole. When you detach, you send the message, "I'm here, but I'm not afraid to leave." And that, more than anything, commands attention. It also protects your emotional energy. When you detach, you stop overanalyzing texts, stop replaying conversations, and stop wasting energy trying to decode someone's mixed signals. You come back to yourself. You focus on your glow, your peace, your joy. You allow the masculine to pursue, lead, and clarify his intention, because you're no longer performing for love. You're simply being. Detachment creates space for him to rise. It allows him to miss you. It gives him the room to reflect on your value without your constant presence reminding him. And when he feels that distance, he begins to ask, "What if I lose her?" That quiet fear can trigger pursuit faster than any perfectly crafted message ever will. Now here's the secret. You don't have to announce your detachment. Don't post cryptic quotes. Don't say, "I'm pulling back." Just do it. Softly, quietly, authentically. Let your silence speak. Let your absence recalibrate the energy. And when he comes forward, don't rush to fill the gap. Let him prove he deserves to be close again. Remember, obsession is never created through over-availability. It's created through space, self-worth, and an aura that says, "I'm the prize. I know it. You'll either rise to meet me or watch me walk." And the best part, the more you practice detachment, the more at peace you feel, whether he stays or not, because obsession may hook a man, but detachment hooks you into your own power. Now let's move to your final tips, how to fully embody quiet confidence daily in your dating life and beyond. So let's talk about how to embody that daily. First, stop trying to be understood by a man who hasn't earned the right to understand you. A magnetic woman doesn't overshare, or explain herself into connection. She leaves room for curiosity. She knows that a man becomes obsessed when he's always discovering more layers to her. Slowly over time, hold back a little. Be selective with what you reveal. When a man has to earn access to your inner world, he values you far more. Next, live in your own rhythm. Don't adjust your day just because he texted. Don't jump to respond in seconds. That slight delay, that air of mystery, keeps the emotional tension alive. Men obsess over women who don't bend their world around them. Why? Because it makes him chase. When your energy says, I have a full life, and I'm choosing to include you in it, that choice becomes irresistible. Another key tip, let him feel the contrast. You've already learned how powerful the hot-cold balance is, so each day, make sure you're not over-communicating. If you've been warm and open one day, be a little more still and self-contained the next. That subtle emotional shift pulls him back in again and again, like a loop he can't close. Also, stop asking, does he like me? And start asking, do I feel good around him? Obsession starts in your mind first. When you believe you're the prize, when you carry yourself with that quiet self-certainty, he will start to reflect that energy back. Your job is not to impress him. It's to stay aligned with your power, your peace, your glow. And most importantly, let him wonder. Don't explain your silence. Don't post just to get his attention. Let him feel the gap when you pull away. That discomfort creates emotional gravity. It draws him toward you, even if he doesn't understand why. The women who become unforgettable are not the ones who give more. They're the ones who give less, more strategically. Who know when to lean in and when to lean back. Who leave breadcrumbs of connection, not whole blueprints. So if you truly want to make a man obsessed, don't chase, don't overdo, and don't reveal everything. Just master the art of emotional pacing. Show up as the woman who is calm, captivating, and just out of reach, and watch what happens.